The sound of breaking glass echoed with their laughter. Blood ran down my face as I lay on the floor, surrounded by shards. I didn't move. I just smiled. They had no clue what they'd really done, or what they'd just thrown away. My father towered over me, fists tight, face flushed with fury. "Get up," he barked. "Get out of my house." I almost laughed. His house. If only he knew. Let me take you back 6 months, before everything changed. I'm Marcus Sullivan, 34. Until today, I was the invisible force behind the Sullivan family empire. The one they mocked. The one they ignored while living off my work. Sullivan Technologies was said to be my father's success. That's the tale he told at every event, every meeting. The hard-working man who grew a tech shop into a multimillion-dollar company. But the truth. I built it. Every deal, every idea, every sleepless night, that was all me. While my brother Tommy played golf with Dad's friends and my sister Kate went to fancy galas, I was at the office, building their luxury life. Dad kept me out of sight, stuck in the back. "You're not great with people," he'd say. "Let Tommy handle the spotlight." What he really meant was I didn't match their brand. Not polished. Not charming. Just the awkward one who loved coding more than crowds. But I was also the one who tripled profits, modernized the company, and predicted tech trends. No one knew. My name was nowhere. Just listed as a technical consultant. That changed 6 months ago. I was working late, as usual, when I discovered something in our financial records. Discrepancies. Large ones. Money moving where it shouldn't, accounts being drained and refilled. At first, I thought it was a mistake, maybe a glitch in our system. It wasn't. My father and Tommy had been embezzling funds, millions of dollars, routing them through shell companies. They were bleeding the company dry, preparing for something big. I dug deeper, tracked every transaction, every document. That's when I found the real plan. They were going to sell the company, not to grow it, not to expand, but to strip it and sell it for parts. The jobs of hundreds of employees, the legacy we built, were going to be sacrificed for a quick payday. I couldn't let that happen. Confronting them would be useless. I'd tried that before, pointing out problems, suggesting improvements. They'd just laugh, pat my head like I was still 12, and tell me to stick to my computers. So, I made a plan. Over the next few months, I quietly began buying shares in the company through various entities. Dad had always insisted on keeping the company private, controlled by the family. He never noticed that the family was becoming me. I worked with lawyers, accountants, people who knew how to move money and power without drawing attention. Every time Dad or Tommy made a mistake, I was there, quietly buying up more control. They were so focused on their own scheme that they never noticed mine. By last week, I owned 51% of Sullivan Technologies. The papers were signed, the transfers complete. I was no longer just the invisible son. I was the majority shareholder. But I kept working like nothing had changed. Kept taking their abuse, their mockery, their condescension. I wanted to see how far they'd go. Tonight was supposed to be a celebration. Dad's 60th birthday, a grand affair at our family estate. The house was packed with business associates, friends, all the people who bought into the myth of John Sullivan, self-made man. I watched from the corner as Tommy charmed investors, as Kate flitted between groups in her designer dress, as Dad held court like a king. They were all playing their parts perfectly. Then I heard them in Dad's study. The door was cracked open, and their voices carried. "Everything's set," Tommy was saying. "Buyers are ready. Once we announce the sale next week, it'll be done." "What about Marcus?" That was Kate, always the practical one. Dad laughed. "What about him? He's nothing, just the family tech support. He'll find another job fixing computers somewhere." "He might cause problems," Kate insisted. "He knows the systems better than anyone." "Let him try," Dad's voice was cold. "I've kept him in line this long. He's weak, always has been, just like his mother. My mother, the only one who ever saw me, who encouraged my love of technology. She died when I was 15, and with her went any warmth in our family. I'd heard enough. I stepped into the study, holding a manila envelope. "Hello, Dad." They all turned, startled. Dad recovered first, his face shifting into that familiar look of annoyed disappointment. "This is a private conversation, Marcus. Get back to whatever you were doing." No, just one word, but it made them all freeze. I'd never said no to Dad before. "What did you say?" He stood up, using his height to tower over me like he had when I was a child. I said, "No." I opened the envelope, pulled out the documents. "You're not selling the company." Tommy laughed, that smug fraternity boy laugh that made my teeth clench. "And how exactly are you going to stop us?" I laid the papers on Dad's desk. "Because I own it." The silence was absolute. Dad snatched up the documents, his face growing redder as he read. "This is impossible. This is fake. It's very real. Every share, every transfer, all legal, all verified. Sullivan Technologies belongs to me." Dad exploded. He lunged forward, grabbing my shirt. "You little snake. You think you can steal from me?" "I didn't steal anything. I bought it while you were playing golf and planning to destroy everything we built. I was saving it." That's when he snapped. His first punch caught me in the jaw, sending me stumbling backward. Before I could recover, he grabbed my hair, dragging me toward the door. "I'll destroy you," he was screaming. "You're nothing. Nothing." The party guests were staring, but no one moved to help. They never did. Dad had too much power, too much influence, or so they thought. We reached the glass doors leading to the patio. I could have fought back, could have stopped what was coming, but I wanted witnesses. I wanted everyone to see. "Get out of my house," Dad roared. And then I was flying, crashing through the glass. The impact knocked the breath from my lungs. Sharp edges bit into my skin, blood warming my cold flesh. Around me, I heard gasps, shocked murmurs, nervous laughter. And that's where we started. Me lying in a bed of broken glass, smiling up at my father's rage-twisted face. "Your house," I whispered, but my voice carried in the sudden silence. "Check your phone, Dad. Check all your accounts." He froze, confusion replacing anger. Behind him, I heard Tommy cursing, Kate's sharp intake of breath. "What did you do?" I sat up slowly, glass tinkling around me. "I didn't just buy the company. I bought everything. The house, the cars, all the properties you put in shell companies to hide from taxes. As of an hour ago, it all belongs to me." Someone in the crowd had their phone out, filming. "Perfect." "You're lying," Dad sputtered, but his hand was already pulling out his phone. I stood, blood dripping onto my once pristine suit. "The only thing I'm guilty of is waiting too long to stop you, letting you abuse me, mock me, treat me like nothing while I built your precious empire." Tommy tried to step forward, but I held up my hand. "Don't bother. Your accounts are already frozen. The evidence of your embezzlement has been sent to the SEC. They're very interested in speaking with both of you." The crowd was deathly quiet now. These people who had laughed at Dad's jokes, who had ignored his cruelty, were watching his world crumble in real time. "You can't do this," Dad whispered, his phone displaying notifications of accounts being closed, properties being transferred. "I already did." I straightened my tie, picked a piece of glass from my sleeve. "You have until morning to get out. All of you, pack what you can prove you bought with legitimate funds, which isn't much." Kate stepped forward, tears in her eyes. "Marcus, please. We're family." "Family." I laughed, and the sound echoed in the silent room. "Family doesn't do what you did. Family doesn't treat people like dirt while stealing from them." I turned to address the crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the drama, but I thought you should all see the real John Sullivan, the man who would throw his own son through a glass door for daring to stop him from destroying hundreds of lives." Phones were out everywhere now. Tomorrow, this would be all over social media. The mighty John Sullivan, exposed. "Security will show you all out," I said calmly. "The party's over." As people began filing out, whispering among themselves, I turned back to my family. They stood there, broken glass at their feet, their perfect world shattering around them. "You have until sunrise," I repeated. "After that, the police will be here to discuss the evidence I've uncovered. I suggest you use your time wisely." I walked away, their protests fading behind me. Outside, the night air was cool on my cuts, the stars bright above me. For the first time in my life, I felt truly free. My phone buzzed. Messages from the lawyers confirming everything was done. The transfer was complete. The evidence was filed. Tomorrow, the world would know the truth about Sullivan Technologies, about the real genius behind its success, about the family who thought they could treat people like nothing and get away with it. But tonight, I would drive home to my quiet apartment, tend to my wounds, and sleep peacefully, knowing that justice doesn't always require forgiveness. The sound of breaking glass still echoed in my ears. But now, it sounded like freedom. The morning sun painted the sky in shades of pink and gold as I sat in my office. My real office now, not the cramped back room where they used to hide me. The wall of windows offered a perfect view of the city waking up, but my attention was fixed on the screens before me. Security footage showed my family's exodus from the mansion at 4 a.m. Dad, Tommy, and Kate, carrying whatever they could grab in the few hours I'd given them. Their faces were drawn, haunted. Reality had finally caught up with them. My phone hadn't stopped buzzing since last night. News outlets wanted statements. Business partners wanted reassurance. Employees wanted answers. But the messages I focused on were from them. "Dad, you'll regret this. No one betrays family. Tommy, you think you've won? Watch your back. Kate, please. We can fix this. Just talk to us." I deleted them all without responding. There was nothing left to say. A knock at my door pulled me from my thoughts. "Come in." Sarah Chin, my newly appointed head of legal, entered with a stack of papers. She'd been one of the few people who knew about my plan, who had helped me execute it perfectly. "The SEC investigators are here," she said, placing the documents on my desk, "and the board is demanding an emergency meeting." I nodded, touching the bandage on my temple where the glass had cut deepest. Let's not keep them waiting. The boardroom was packed. Executives, lawyers, board members, all the people who had ignored me for years now sat up straighter as I entered. Funny how respect works when you hold the power. "Ladies and gentlemen," I began, standing at the head of the table. "I know you have questions. Let me answer the most important one first. Yes, everything you've heard is true." Murmurs rippled through the room. I continued, my voice steady. "John Sullivan and Thomas Sullivan have been embezzling funds for years. They were planning to strip this company and sell it off, destroying everything we've built. Instead, I took control, legally, and stopped them." "But how?" One of the board members, Peterson, leaned forward. "How did you acquire majority ownership without anyone knowing?" I smiled. "The same way I built this company while you all pretended not to see me, carefully, methodically, legally." The next 2 hours were a blur of questions, explanations, and revelations. I showed them the evidence of my father's crimes, the documentation of my legitimate takeover, and the plans I had to strengthen and grow the company. By the end, even the most skeptical board members were nodding. They'd seen the numbers, seen the innovations I'd created that Dad had taken credit for. They understood now who had really been running things all along. As the meeting concluded, my phone buzzed again. A text from an unknown number made my blood freeze. "You think you know everything? Ask Mom how she really died." I stared at the message, my hand tightening around the phone. Mom's death, a car accident when I was 15, had never sat right with me. But surely they wouldn't have. "Mr. Sullivan." Sarah's voice snapped me back to reality. "The police are ready for your statement about last night." Right. One battle at a time. The police interview was straightforward. The video of Dad throwing me through the glass had gone viral. Multiple witnesses had given statements, combined with the evidence of financial crimes. There was no question about pressing charges. But as I described the events, a detective asked something that caught me off guard. Mr. Sullivan, we found something interesting while investigating your father's records. There's a sealed file from 15 years ago regarding your mother's accident. My heart stopped. What kind of file? Insurance investigation. Never completed. The investigator disappeared halfway through the case. The text message flashed in my mind. Ask Mom how she really died. I want to see that file, I said quietly. It'll take some time to unseal it, the detective warned. Whatever it takes. My voice was steel. If there's more to my mother's death, I need to know. Back in my office, I sat in the growing darkness, thinking about Mom. She had been different from the rest of them. Kind, genuine, encouraging. She saw my potential when everyone else saw a misfit. The night she died, she had called me, excited about something she'd discovered. Everything's going to change, she'd said. The truth is going to come out. She never made it home to tell me what she'd found. Another message lit up my phone. Kate, this time, Mom knew too much. Just like you. Don't make her mistake. Ice ran through my veins. Not a threat, a warning. A soft knock interrupted my thoughts. Sarah stood in the doorway, her face grave. Marcus, you need to see this. She placed a folder on my desk. It was in your father's private safe. The cleaning crew found it while clearing out his office. Inside was a single photograph. Mom, sitting at Dad's desk, holding what looked like financial documents. The timestamp showed it was taken the night she died. There's more, Sarah said quietly. The SEC found irregularities dating back to that time. Massive transfers, deleted records. They killed her, I whispered, the truth hitting me like physical pain. She found out what they were doing, and Sarah touched my shoulder gently. What do you want to do? I stood, staring out at the city lights. Mom had died trying to expose their crimes. She had died protecting me. They must have threatened me to keep her quiet. Get me everything, I said, my voice hard. Every record, every document from that time. And call the detective back. Tell him I know where to start looking for his missing investigator. The truth about Mom's death had been buried for 15 years, but I had power now, resources, and most importantly, I had nothing left to lose. They thought throwing me through a glass door would break me, I said, touching my healing cuts. But they forgot one thing. What's that? Sarah asked. I'm my mother's son, and she taught me to never back down from the truth. As night fell over the city, I began to plan. They hadn't just stolen my childhood, my dignity, my place in the family. They had stolen my mother. And for that, there would be no mercy. The real war was just beginning. The truth has a weight to it, a physical presence that settles in your chest and changes how you breathe, how you move, how you see the world. The truth about Mom's death sat like lead in my stomach. As I pored over the old files, 3 days had passed since the glass door incident. The media storm had intensified. Everyone wanted to know about the tech heir who had outmaneuvered his own family. But I was focused on something deeper, darker. Marcus. Sarah's voice pulled me from my thoughts. She stood in my office doorway, holding a thick manila envelope. The forensic accountants found something. The envelope contained bank statements from 15 years ago, the night Mom died. $3 million had been transferred to an offshore account. The account holder's name made my blood run cold. Michael Porter, the private investigator who had disappeared while investigating Mom's accident. He was bought off, I muttered, spreading the documents across my desk. But why vanish completely? Maybe he didn't have a choice, Sarah said quietly. My phone buzzed. Another message from Kate. Stop digging. Some graves should stay buried. I turned the screen to Sarah. They're getting nervous. They should be. She opened her tablet and pulled up more files. We found Porter. I looked up fast. Where? Costa Rica. Or at least, that's where he was. He died in a boating accident 6 months after your mom died. Of course. They hadn't just paid him to stay quiet. They made sure he'd stay silent forever. A knock on the door made us freeze. Detective Martinez stepped in, face tense. Mr. Sullivan. We unsealed the file. He set a worn folder on my desk. You need to see this. Inside were photos from Mom's crash, but they weren't the ones I remembered. These showed something else. Skid marks. Paint transfer. A second car. It wasn't an accident, Martinez said. Your mother was forced off the road. The room spun. I grabbed the desk to keep from falling. There's more, he added. We found trace evidence. A black SUV was involved. It's registered to Thomas Sullivan. My brother, I said. Martinez nodded. The case was buried before the lab could finish. Your dad had powerful friends. Tommy. My own brother. I couldn't even finish the thought. Another buzz. A message from Dad. You were always too much like her. Always had to know everything. Don't make me handle this the same way. Something inside me broke. The last string holding back the rage. Sarah, get me everything on Tommy's movements that night. Footage, charges, everything. She nodded and got to work. Detective, I turned to Martinez. I want the case reopened. Officially. It won't be easy, he warned. Statute of limitations doesn't apply to murder. I cut in, and I have new evidence. I pulled out my laptop, bringing up files I discovered in the company's archived servers, emails between Dad and Tommy from the night Mom died. Cryptic messages about handling the situation and protecting the family. There's more, Sarah added. The company's old security system kept backup tapes. We found footage from that night, your mother in the office, discovering something. Then Tommy following her when she left. Martinez studied the footage, his expression hardening. This changes everything. As they worked, I sat back, memories flooding my mind. Mom's last phone call, her excitement about whatever she discovered. The way Dad had seemed almost relieved at her funeral. My phone buzzed one more time. Kate, again, they're coming for you tonight. Get out. A warning, not a threat. Kate had always been different, cold, calculating, but not cruel like Dad and Tommy. As if on cue, security called. Sir, there's a situation in the lobby. Thomas Sullivan is demanding entry. I checked the security feed. Tommy stood in the lobby, but he wasn't alone. 3 men flanked him, trying to look casual and failing. Those men, Martinez said, studying the feed. They're not just muscle. They're professionals, like the kind who could force a car off the road. I asked quietly, like the kind who could kill my mother. He nodded grimly. I should have been scared, should have run, but something else was rising in me, a cold, calculated anger that felt like clarity. Let them up, I said. Marcus, no, Sarah protested. Trust me. I turned to Martinez. Detective, I assume you have backup nearby. He smiled slightly. SWAT team's been on standby since we opened that file. I nodded. Good. Sarah, activate Protocol 0. She paled but nodded. Protocol 0 was our nuclear option, a complete data dump of every criminal act we'd uncovered, set to release automatically if anything happened to me. The elevator dinged. Tommy stepped out, his expensive suit failing to hide the desperation in his eyes. His 3 friends spread out behind him. Hello, brother, I said calmly. Here to finish what Dad started. This can still end quietly, Tommy said, trying to sound reasonable. Just sign the company back over. Destroy the evidence. We can go back to how things were. I laughed. You mean with me invisible and you living off my work? Or did you mean going back to killing anyone who threatens your perfect world? He flinched. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. I stood, walking around my desk. I understand that you killed our mother, forced her car off the road because she discovered your crimes, just like Dad asked you to. She was going to destroy everything. Tommy snapped, his facade cracking. The company, the family name. No, I cut in. She was going to expose your lies, your theft, your corruption, just like I did. One of Tommy's men reached into his jacket. Martinez cleared his throat, his badge glinting as he stepped forward. "I wouldn't," the detective said quietly. Tommy's eyes widened as he finally noticed Martinez. "You brought cops?" "No," I smiled. "I brought justice." The next few minutes were chaos. Tommy's men tried to run but found SWAT teams waiting at every exit. Tommy himself just stood there, watching his world crumble for the second time in 3 days. As Martinez read him his rights, Tommy looked at me with something like bewilderment. "How?" he whispered. "How did you beat us?" I stepped close, making sure only he could hear my answer. "I learned from Mom. She taught me to stand up to bullies, to fight for truth. The only difference is I had what she didn't: power." They led him away in handcuffs. As the elevator doors closed on his shocked face, I felt something lift from my shoulders, a weight I'd carried for 15 years without even knowing it. Sarah touched my arm gently. "What now?" I looked out at the city, at the empire I'd built while they weren't watching, at the truth I'd uncovered while they thought I was nothing. "Now," I smiled, "we make this company what Mom always wanted it to be. Honest, innovative, a force for good." "And your father?" she asked quietly. "He'll be joining Tommy soon enough. The evidence we found, he won't escape justice this time." As night fell over the city, I stood in my office, thinking about Mom, about her courage, her principles, her love. "I did it, Mom," I whispered to the empty room. "I found the truth. I made them pay." My phone buzzed one last time. "Kate, I'm ready to tell the police everything. About Mom, about Dad, about all of it. I'm tired of living with lies." I smiled. Maybe there was hope for one member of my family after all. The truth has a weight to it. But sometimes, when you finally uncover it, that weight becomes wings. 1 year later, I stood in the cemetery, placing fresh flowers on Mom's grave. The morning dew sparkled on the marble headstone, newly updated with the truth about her life and her death. The trial had been front-page news for months. Tommy broke first, confessing everything in exchange for a lighter sentence, 20 years instead of life. Dad held out longer, but Kate's testimony destroyed his defense. He got life without parole, not just for Mom's murder, but for decades of financial crimes that had finally caught up with him. Kate was different. After turning state's evidence, she went into therapy, confronting the years of manipulation and emotional abuse. We weren't close, probably never would be, but we were healing. She worked now in victim advocacy, trying to make amends in her own way. "Mr. Sullivan." I turned to find Sarah approaching, holding a tablet. "Even here, work followed." "The merger's complete," she said softly, respecting the solemnity of the place. "Sullivan Technologies is officially merging with 3 smaller tech firms. We'll be able to save thousands of jobs." I nodded, touching Mom's headstone gently. She would have liked that. Using our success to help others, the company had transformed over the past year. We'd shifted our focus to sustainable technology, employee welfare, and ethical innovation. Everything Mom had dreamed of before they silenced her. My phone buzzed. A message from Kate: the Foundation's first scholarship winners are confirmed. 10 students from underprivileged backgrounds. Full rides to study technology. The Maria Sullivan Foundation, named for Mom, was my way of continuing her legacy, supporting young minds who, like me, didn't fit the traditional mold of success. "There's something else," Sarah said, hesitating. "Tommy's requesting a meeting." I'd visited him once in prison, 3 months ago. He'd aged decades in a single year, the weight of guilt finally cracking through his arrogance. "Tell him yes," I decided. "Next week." Sarah nodded and stepped away, giving me a moment alone with Mom. "I did it differently than you would have," I told the silent stone. "Used their own tactics against them. But I think you'd understand. Sometimes justice needs a hammer, not just a heart." The morning sun broke through the clouds, warming my face. Somewhere in the distance, church bells rang. My phone buzzed again, a news alert this time. Dad's appeal had been denied. Final and absolute. I smiled, thinking of that night, the shattering glass, their sneering faces. They thought breaking me would be easy. They'd forgotten that diamonds are made under pressure. The company's having its best year ever, I told Mom's grave, but more importantly, it's doing good. Real good. Your kind of good. The wind rustled through the trees, carrying away the last shadows of my old life. I was no longer the hidden son, the family shame. I was Marcus Sullivan, CEO of Sullivan Technologies, my mother's true heir. I should go, I said, straightening up. Board meeting in an hour. We're voting on a new ethical investment policy. As I turned to leave, I noticed a small figure standing by a nearby tree. Kate. She'd come too, carrying her own flowers. Our eyes met, and she gave a small, hesitant wave. I nodded back. We weren't the family we used to be, but maybe we could become something better, something honest. Walking back to my car, I thought about that night again, the glass door, the blood, the moment everything changed. They thought they were destroying me. But in truth, they set me free. Some people say success is the best revenge. But I learned something else. Truth is the best freedom, and freedom, once gained, is worth any price. Sarah waited by the car, tablet ready. Another day of changing the world ahead of us. Ready? She asked. I looked back at Mom's grave one last time, then smiled. Ready. The morning sun painted the city gold as we drove away, leaving the past where it belonged, buried with the lies that had kept it alive for so long. They'd called me nothing. But nothing, I'd learned, is just a space where something remarkable is waiting to be born.